Welcome to the Album Nerds Podcast with your hosts, Andy, Don, and Dude.
It's the end of the year as we know it. This is the Album Nerds Podcast. I'm Dude. I got Andy, Don with me. Andy, you ready to talk about some records and look forward to the future?
Yeah. I'm always looking forward to the future. That's why I got my sunglasses on, because it looks so bright.
Wow.
Yeah, you got to wear shades. How about you, Don?
It was a very good year.
That's it?
That's it. That's all I got.
No boo after.
More to come.
Shooby-dooby-doo. All right. So, yes, this is our favorite albums of 2023 episode. So we'll be getting into those. And we've got a great show. We're going to go over some of our honorable mentions, and then we're going to get into our album selections, our favorites of the year 2023. And then we'll be answering a question about a loosely related topic. And then we're going to spin the wheel of musical destiny to find out what we'll talk about on the next episode. But this week, we got to get into the favorite albums of 2023.
That's what I'm talking about!
Well, we have discussed a wide variety of new releases throughout 2023 from artists like Metallica, Home Is Where, Foo Fighters, Yves Tumor, Jonas Brothers, Iggy Pop, Corinne Bailey Rae, and Wilco. But today, we are going to pick our favorites.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, our favorites as of the day that we chose our favorites, but
yeah,
it just really depends on the day, on your mood, what you feel like. And so keep that in mind always. Favorites are ever-changing. All right, so why don't we get started with our honorable mentions. Honorable.
I said I am an honorable man.
Honorable.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
All right, for my first honorable mention selection, we're talking about Marnie Stern and her record, The Comeback Kid. So this is Marnie's fifth studio album, came out in November, her first record in 10 years. She was working on Late Night with Seth Meyers for a little while.
Oof, poor Marnie.
I know, right? Probably pays well, but not the most exciting job in the history. But yeah, she came out with a vengeance, I would say, with this record. It's just short and sweet, but packed with a lot of like very intense, sort of like post-punk math rock sounds. Let's play a little bit of the opening cut. This is Plain Speak.
Never heard of Marnie Stern, but it was an enjoyable, however quiet and then kind of crazily loud and chaotic, and then it go back to quiet.
Chaotic's a good word.
There's a lot of guitar that goes, or, you know, there's like a shredding, I don't know.
Yeah, very progressive, very confident sounding record. Yeah, I was enjoying this as much as her stuff she was doing in the early 2010s.
Dépêchez-vous, vous vous faites distancer.
Well, my first honorable mention is an album we discussed in episode 195. It's Depeche Mode's Memento Mori. Here's a clip from the song Ghosts Again. So this is the 15th studio album from Depeche Mode. Yeah, really kind of a return to form, I would say. Also, the singer David Gaughan co-wrote a lot of the tracks. A lot of songs about loss, and yeah, I've aged along with Depeche Mode, and we always seem to meet in the same places. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hearing this record, every time I've listened to it, and I've listened to it a lot this year, I picture myself in my high school hallway where my locker was senior year. Like, so it definitely captures whatever it was, whatever magic they had then, they still have now.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it quite a bit too. I think it's maybe a little bit stronger than I initially thought on our first time we talked about it. Yeah, really, they have such a great sound, and I think it really does harken back to what I loved about them in the 80s and early 90s.
And if I'm honest, it's probably the album I'll listen to the most moving forward.
I ain't afraid of no ghosts.
Let's rock!
So I'm going with King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard as an honorable mention. The album is called Petrodragonic Apocalypse or Dawn of Eternal Night, annihilation of planet Earth and the beginning of merciless damnation. And I've run out of time.
Wow.
All right, so I'm going to play a little clip from Gila Monster. So this is King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard's 24th album, and they've had one or two since this one. It's kind of like Infest the Rat's Nest from a few years ago. It leans into the more metal side as opposed to the experimental indie rock type stuff. And I like that side of them and that kind of droney, almost throat singing vocal style. And it's about climate change, but it's also about witches and monsters and all the metal tropes that they decided to pull out of their butts on this one. So it's a very enjoyable, fun metal record from a not exactly metal band.
It's pretty amazing the quality that they pull out of their butts, to do it so frequently and to put out stuff
well,
that's
they eat
so
very
interesting.
healthy.
It's an Australian diet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually anxious to kind of spend more time with these guys, but they have so many damn albums now, I don't know what to do.
This one was like number 26 on my list, I want to say. But their other record, The Silver Cord, I had at number 7. So
See Andy's list at albumnerds.com/discord.
This is the greatest day of our lives.
All right, for my second honorable mention here, we're talking about a band called Zulu and their record A New Tomorrow. This came out back in March of 2023. It's the debut album for the hardcore punk 5-piece from Los Angeles. It's a very interesting record. I had this as my number 1 for most of the year. Just slid it down recently. Let's play a little bit of the cut for Sister Humphrey.
That about sums it up.
It's a hard record to sum up, I would say. It's hardcore punk generally, but there's large elements of it are like samples and spoken word passages. There's like elements of jazz and R&B and funk as well, kind of interwoven in with this hardcore sound. Very experimental, very interesting. I've been enjoying it quite a bit. I'm not sure I have a solid feel for every intricacy of its runtime.
It's very interesting, but also both of your picks so far, Andy, have been chaotic and calm combos.
Mm-hmm. True.
Yeah, it's an interesting record. I don't know, that the extreme shifts from like the soft to the loud, like I'm not sure that it totally works, but I do need to spend more time with the record.
Real man of genius.
My second honorable mention is another record we've discussed before, back in episode 208, Boy Genius, with an album called The Record. Here's a song called Not Strong Enough.
Not strong enough to be your man.
This is the debut album from a supergroup made up of indie singer-songwriters Julianne Baker, Phoebe Bridgers, and Lucy Dacus. Yeah, this one caught me off guard, when I was struggling to find albums for our new release show, and I really fell in love with the record. Unlike other supergroups that we've talked about in the past, I feel like these three women really want to work together, and they're inspiring each other. It's just it's great songwriting, catchy hooks, and really clever lyrics. So love this album.
Let me throw out a topic. Boy Genius. Neither a boy nor a genius. Discuss. I liked it earlier this year. I like it now. It's they do bring out the best in each other.
Yeah, they all have such different sounds in their solo work, and then it all fits together here, though. I think it's still a pretty compelling listen. So
yeah, and they've released an EP since, so they've got some momentum.
Cool.
Comparatively speaking, you are like a grain of sand in the Sahara Desert. Yeah, and I am the entire desert.
So my second honorable mention is a favorite band of mine, Rival Sons. The album is Dark Fighter. They actually came out with 2 albums this year, Dark Fighter and Lightbringer. Let's play a little clip from the opening track, Mirrors.
I didn't know that I was going
I mean, this song is basically just about finding yourself and realizing that you're off course and looking yourself in the mirror and correcting that course. Like, what could I do better to be a better person? Soaring vocals from Jay Buchanan, Scott Holliday's dynamic guitar playing. It's the Rival Sons as they always sound, but they just continue to perfect their sound. They don't reinvent themselves, but they continue to improve. What'd you guys think of this one?
I thought it was a pretty solid record. I mean, they're definitely progressing forward. I'm just not as in love with the direction they're going over the last few records. But I thought it was pretty solid. Yeah,
I only know the other album that we discussed last year, but I was definitely impressed by this one.
And again, the production work of Dave Kopp.
Of course.
Okay, so those were our honorable mentions. Let's get into the meat and potatoes here, folks. Let's talk about our favorite album picks.
Where's the beef?
You choose me? People sometimes ask, is music a cathartic experience? Is it like relieving yourself of it? No, it's not. It's a form of expression, but it's not therapy. It doesn't solve problems.
All right, my favorite album of 2023 is indeed from PJ Harvey. Her record, I Inside the Old Year Dying. This came out back in July of 2023.
Did Yoda come up with the album name and some of the tracks on here? I Inside the Old Year Dying.
I was trying to find the voice to do it, but thank you. This is the 10th studio album for the singer-songwriter from Bridport, England. It's her first new album in 7 years. She referred to it as a resting space or a solace. Okay, let's play a little bit from a title cut. This is I Inside the Old Year Dying.
Trash repeats himself.
Yeah, so the three words I use to describe this album are haunted parallel universe nursery rhyme. It's an odd record, man. I didn't really care for it a ton when I first started listening to it, considering this for our latest From a Legends episode we did earlier this year. But man, it really got under my skin, or more like into my bones since then. It's a strange record, man. It deals with Elvis and Shakespeare, and there's a very childish nursery rhyme quality to a lot of the lyrics, I would say. Mm-hmm. A lot of misspelling or mispronunciation of words seems to be intentional. So just makes this weird, it felt like a parallel universe. It's kind of like our world, but a little bit different, very Harveyized, I guess you could say.
So if you went to a different version of our universe in a multiverse, this would be how PJ Harvey's entire catalog was.
In a parallel universe, she's Taylor Swift.
Right. Yeah, they call them Harveys. They're fans.
That's right. Instead of Swifties. Yeah. It's a strange record. The production is very ragged and distorted, and there's a real sonic depth to it, I would say. Listening on headphones is a pretty rewarding experience. It's a very cohesive album in that every track feels like it just kind of feeds into the next. Yeah, I mean, lyrically it didn't really hit me over the head with a strong message. So I didn't really pull a lot of meaning from it, but it definitely speaks to me on a deeper level, I guess. There's a feeling about this record that I still can feel even when I'm not listening to it. Let's hear a little bit from the closing track. This is a noiseless noise.
In these woods,
Kind of felt a little Velvet Underground-ish there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not really sure exactly what the lyrics are about there. I thought maybe it's kind of saying, stop wandering, stop looking around for something more, just go home to love. But that might be too simple an interpretation of something that's meant to be more complex. The three words I chose to describe the album are female Nick Cave, although that's maybe not fair. Maybe he's the male PJ Harvey. Of course, Nick Cave and PJ Harvey dated years ago.
They stole each other's vibe
and look. But they do seem to come from the same place musically. Tends to be, sort of on the dark experimental side of things. They both have kind of non-traditional voices, and they provide like just enough of a taste of pop to keep you engaged. So I think they both do that quite well. I'm also reminded of Patti Smith with PJ Harvey.
Yeah, totally.
A lot of the vocal delivery. Sure. Also, because she's not an amazing singer, but she is good with the rhythm of her language.
Yeah.
So it's, as Andy already said, it's just this experimental and mysterious journey. Lots of cool, sonic moments on it. I really like that song, August, as well. And then, I'm not sure how old PJ Harvey is now. I think she's probably older than me. She seems to, still have a lot of energy and art in her. So I'm happy to hear that.
All right, let's hear another cut from the record. This is track 4, Seam and I.
Seam and I.
Edges to the gulls. Seam my childhood.
Never mind that Don just said Seam and I. Just put that out of your mind. Yeah, so Seam and I dives into feelings of nostalgia and the messy parts growing up and a lot of weird scenes about bedraggled angels, boneyard sounds. It's very surreal. Some made-up words like twankaten and then like mentioning sickly chicken whistles, which I think is what drew me to this song in particular, and just it kind of sums up the vibe of the whole record. To describe it in 3 words, I went with Smith meets Seuss. So yes, I heard Patti Smith as well, but there's something very Seussical about what Andy was getting to earlier with the weird words, the rhyming scheme, the kind of childlike vibe in some of the nursery rhymish sounds. So I just thought that it was interesting to have that Seussiness mixed with the more confident, serious Patti Smith vibe. And I've not listened to PJ Harvey since the 90s. It sounds more unhindered. She's just making what she wants to make as opposed to trying to fit into any kind of music scene. And it's more interesting for it. So, yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, she really gave up on like traditional song structures that you might expect from her. If you're familiar with her from back in the 90s, I think it's a really interesting record with a lot of depth. And if you have the time and the patience to kind of commit to it a little bit, I think it definitely pays off. So once again, the record is I Inside the Old Year Dying by PJ Harvey, my favorite album of 2023.
Favorite. I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me.
If you're enjoying the show, and we hope you are, do us a solid and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Maybe we made you laugh or you discovered an album you enjoy. Leaving a review keeps the show going and helps other music fans find us.
I may be remembered as a guy who wore the flower on my head or got up in crazy costumes. And if it feels good and it's fun, and you can explore ideas, then go for it.
Was that Sting talking about tantric sex?
Close.
No, in fact, it was Peter Gabriel with his first album in 21 years. It's called I.O. This is the 10th studio album from Peter Brian Gabriel, born in Chobham, Surrey, England in 1950. Of course, a founding member and original lead singer of Genesis. Let's hear the closing cut, actually. This is Live and Let Live.
To be brave enough to listen, to live and let live. It takes courage to start.
According to Gabriel, that song is about forgiveness, tolerance, and optimism. And Gabriel described it as a joyous, rousingly positive closing note for the album. And that one actually features synths and programming from Brian Eno, who we've discussed on the show before. Weird thing about this album, there are 2 different mixes of every song. The first version of the album you hear is the Bright Side mix. All those were mixed by a Mark Spike Stent. The second mix of the album you hear is from Chad Blake, and that's called the Dark Side mix. Yeah.
Cue eye roll sequence.
So We'll talk more about that in a bit, I think. So the three words I chose to describe the album are "can't blow out fire." That's actually, I'm referring back to the song Biko, where he says you can blow out a candle, but you can't blow out a fire. I'm surprised at just how vibrant Peter Gabriel sounds, particularly his voice. In fact, like, I'm suspicious that his voice could be artificially augmented, because
I was wondering that too, if they were using an AI.
He sounds better than ever.
Yeah.
And I saw him live probably 10 years ago, and his voice was, kind of rough and gravelly. It's always been a little gravelly, and I don't know, just sounds really good on this album.
This also had the Guns N' Roses Chinese Democracy kind of treatment, where it was being recorded over the course of decades or whatever.
True.
So maybe the best sounding fresh voice is from 15 years ago. Who knows?
Yeah, unlike Chinese Democracy, I think he really pulled this off. I think it's an excellent album. It's very accessible, though. I'm surprised that it's not very challenging at all. Also, you're not getting as much of that world music vibe that a lot of his older stuff has. It's still there. Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of songs here that I think would hold up next to, his classics in a set list or on a greatest hits compilation. Let's hear more of it. This is Four Kinds of Horses.
I used to say you're something different, but you do it all again.
So Peter Gabriel with that song is going to be featured on the new season of Yellowstone. Just kidding. So Four Kinds of Horses sort of gets into identity, illusion, repetition, and like people perceive themselves as unique individuals, but we often repeat our own patterns and behaviors. And he introduces this concept of four kinds of horses, four kinds of men. It's based on a Buddhist parable, so that's very Peter Gabriel-y, right? Mm-hmm. The three words I'm going to use to describe the album are atmospheric, uplifting, rubber mallet. It ain't no sledgehammer. But it gets the job done, right? It does form something important, and I wasn't disappointed at all. Like the pop side of him came back out, so it could be compared to those 80s and early 90s albums to that degree, where there's some pop sensibility. It's a little more relatable without some of those elements Don was talking about, all the fancy world music stuff and the kind of almost, there's sometimes he puts out a snootiness that is off-putting, and that does not appear here, except for having an album with two mixes on the same album. Just release them as different albums, right? Which would be fine with me. Like, I felt obligated to listen to it twice if that was the experience he was trying to give, but they sounded almost the same to me. But
did you guys hear any difference? I mean, there's very subtle.
Yeah, really subtle. If you listen to them back to back, you could kind of hear it, but it's usually just the vocals and the bass are, just sound a little different, but no. Okay, well, let's hear more. This is Playing for Time.
All the moments come and go, while the memories ebb and flow. Play again, play again.
Yeah, that's a good vocal right there.
Yeah, he sounds fresh. Sounds good, man. And that song generally deals about, aging and perspective and, making the most of your time. I thought that track was beautifully written and performed. He sounds really good on this record overall, like we were saying. My three words to describe this album are PG, Apple IIe, Wii. Just a little computer joke.
Explain yourself.
I.O. computer thing, 80s.
Yeah. Gotcha.
I thought this was a really solid effort, man. It makes me feel like he's still, relevant. Like I really felt like these songs were saying something, especially the A side. I thought that was like as strong as what he was doing back in the 80s. The B side, it felt a little bit less urgent and maybe a little bit overly long, and especially the dark side mix felt totally unnecessary to me. But I think it's just nice having like someone who's more of like that elder statesman sort of position in the music landscape, offering not only some interesting ideas, but just some perspective on things. And he's got a really good positive vibe, and it feels good to listen to these messages he's preaching. And it is a little preachy, but that's just kind of like, he's British. I mean, I kind of expect that. But no, I was pretty positive on this. I was impressed.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so maybe it's just recency bias because, I've only had a month to process this record, but Peter Gabriel I.O. is my favorite record of 2023.
Shaped like Peter Gabriel's big bloated head.
Excuse me. I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Now, Deep Questions by Don. All right, well, it is the new year, and this is a time when people are making resolutions. What are your music-related New Year's resolutions?
More world music. I don't necessarily mean like that specific genre, but just trying to expand outside of the U.S. a little bit more. Hearing there's a lot of interesting things going on in Spanish or Latino music that I'd like to get more into. Yeah, I mean, Africa is always doing interesting things too. So yeah, definitely something I want to try and get outside of the U.S. a little bit more.
Oh, and we're not really looking for a world music vibe.
So for me, it's relying less on streaming services. Like, I have a vinyl record collection and lots of CDs that I've been collecting for decades. And sometimes just pure laziness causes me to use my streaming service instead of getting up and cleaning the record. And so if I own something that we're doing on the show, I will listen to it once on vinyl, especially if it's a classic record. But I really do need to do a better job of listening to all of my stuff while I can, while I'm still here, So that's my resolution, is to lay off of the streaming services a little bit and spend a little more time with my collection.
Wow.
Do you find like you get more out of listening to the physical media versus the digital form?
I do, because there is the hard stop or the flip of the record, or the get up and choose something and put it in the CD player, put it on the turntable. And the reason I think I lean away from that sometimes, I'm listening to music while I'm working, and it's easier to just set up 4 albums in a playlist and let them go, But I could take the extra minute to get up and get a record off the shelf.
I don't know if I've said this before, but I thought it would be cool if streaming services like Tidal or Spotify would put in a sound of you like flipping a record when you go from side A to side B.
That's interesting.
Yeah, a lot of people would just think it's broken though. They'd be like, why does it make this weird sound? Maybe only if you're over 40, it does.
You could have it randomly throw in skips and stuff like that, and some popping sounds.
That's funny.
I guess my resolution is to learn more about music theory. It's something I'm interested in. I want to know more about why music sounds the way it does and why it has the impact that it does. I think it'll make me better at talking about music on the show, at the risk of maybe getting too boring and too in the
You got to live up to that professor vibe, dude. I mean, you are the doctor, so bring it.
But I did take, I took like a basic musicianship class in college, and I really struggled with this stuff. So I'm really going to have to, I think there's a music theory for dummies. I think I'm going to start there, and then maybe I'll have to move on to some online classes or something. Okay. What are your music-related New Year's resolutions? Let us know. Join us on the socials, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. Also on Discord, albumnerds.com/Discord.
I'm Charles Wesley Godwin, and we're backstage here at the Opry.
Darn. It should have been my 3 words. Charles in charge. Damn it.
That was one of my options. Yeah, so that was Charles Wesley Godwin, and his album Family Ties is my favorite of 2023. This is his 3rd album, and he's influenced by Chris Christopherson, Willie Nelson, John Prine, Chris Knight, Ryan Bingham, that kind of thing. Been a fan of his for a while, but this album is all about family. Why don't we get into the track Minor Imperfections?
His hard edges cut me deep when I was just a boy. I saw his face light up when those grandchildren were born. He's got minor imperfections.
So Charles the sound has filled in a little bit over the course of these 3 albums. The first one was much more stripped down, Seneca, and I love that record. A lot of his music centers around West Virginia, where he's from, and the coal mines and the blue collar world. And the song "Minor Imperfections" touches on his dad, hardworking figure, a coal miner, and how sometimes at the time of childhood, it felt like he was being hard on him, but ultimately he wasn't. He was teaching him how to be a good man and father in the future. So then the song gets into his minor imperfections when it comes to his kids, but supporting them the same way his dad supported him. And it's just nice, you know, and I think that's what Charles does really well here. He's got sort of a Gordon Lightfoot deal going on, and I think it just really works. Describing this album in 3 words, I went with heartfelt Appalachian tapestry. My alternative 3 words were sha la la la. Sha la la la. The Michael J. Fox sitcom Family Ties came to mind throughout the course of this for me.
I was actually disappointed to find it wasn't a concept album about the Keatons.
That I would want to hear.
All right, why don't we listen to a little bit of That Time Again.
That time again, it's a gathering of kin. Oh, that time again.
Now I really hear the Gordon Lightfoot in his voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really catchy track about, you know, just getting together with your family that time of year. I mean, I think that should maybe be like our new holiday song from 2023. Just, you know, put that on, gather around the Christmas tree or whatever. 3 words I use to describe this album are shallow family roots.
Ooh.
Very, you know, rootsy, grounded, alt-country kind of sound here, and I appreciate that. I think what stuck with me or stuck out compared to his previous records are just kind of the lack of intimate moments and really in-depth storytelling. I think maybe Minor Imperfections was the one song that I felt like kind of was getting to that direction. I mean, there are some really great moments on here, and I did enjoy the record overall. I just didn't get as much out of it as I did some of his earlier work. It's focused on family, but I didn't really get a sense of like who his family is or, you know, where he was from. I mean, it feels like the purpose of the record is to kind of preserve or at least present like how he was raised and you know, the values they had. Man, I couldn't really say what those were, to be honest with you, after listening to this a few times.
Yeah, I mean, so like The Flood was about his mother, Minor Imperfections his father, Dance in the Rain for his daughter, and Willing and Able for his wife, and I believe Gabriel was about his son, whose name is Gabriel. But, you know, he's been touring with Zach Bryan, who also puts out very large albums of 19 tracks. And so he signed this new record deal, and I think he also experimented some. So there's the Family Ties, but there's also some additional stuff in there that I think is more playing around with songwriting. So speaking of one of those dalliances, but it also comes back to home. Let's listen to a little bit of Q Country Roads.
Come on and take me home, Q Country Roads. Come on and take me home.
So that song, which references the John Denver song "Take Me Home, Country Roads," actually goes right into an actual cover of "Take Me Home, Country Roads," which I think is kind of cool. Like, so if you're gonna throw a cover on an album, you know, provide some context for it or something. I thought that was kind of a clever way of doing that. The 3 words I chose for the album are just classic country storytelling. You know, it's exactly, I think, what I expected the album to be, and it delivered. And I know, like, I mean, Dude's really into albums like this, and I you know, I've got a weakness for him as well. I love that the album has an overture. I feel like more albums should have overtures, you know, because they. But it sets the tone for the album and maybe sneaks some of the melodies you're going to hear later. I've never seen an underture before.
Me either. I like that.
Which is kind of neat. So lots of clever things happening on this album. I love his voice. Now I hear Gordon Lightfoot. Before I was hearing like John Mellencamp a little bit. Yeah, there's a warmth, I think, in his voice, which kind of softens that outlaw edge, this type of artist tends to have. And it's, I think good country like this can be soulful. And this really, this has soul.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't go to the lengths that Chris Stapleton does. Like, he had a new album this year as well. But yeah, with like songs like Another Leaf, which is has a kind of nice bridge in it. It's about putting another leaf on the family tree. It's the only like sexy track I've ever heard from Charles Wesley Godwin, but done in a way that is not overtly sexy. And I kind of like that. Yeah. What do you guys think of 1038, just out of curiosity? Did you look into that at all?
I did like the song. It stuck out to me, but what's the background on the story?
So the song serves as the other half of Bruce Springsteen's State Trooper from the album Nebraska from 1982. So Charles Wesley Godwin loves that record. It's one of his favorites. So in the Springsteen song, which is called State Trooper, it's kind of dark song about a man who's committed some crime and is sort of begging in his sort of stream of consciousness that the state trooper won't pull him over. And then Police Code 1038 means stopping a suspicious vehicle. So Charles Wesley Godwin wrote a song from the trooper's perspective, narrating through responding to that call. So
nice.
I thought that was pretty cool. He's positioned himself where he has a little freedom to play with things on his records. So it does kind of remove you from the family ties part, but it also is kind of kept me interested. So that was my favorite record for 2023. Charles Wesley Godwin, Family Ties. Sha-la-la-la.
You are my favorite.
Yeah, so those are our favorite albums of 2023. Be curious to know what you guys are listening to. Just gonna quickly highlight some stuff coming out in 2024. In January, we got new releases from Green Day, Sleater Kenny, Future Islands, Static X. You guys remember Static X? It's terrible. Including
wow, come on! They've got a new singer. He wears a Wayne Static mask.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, you bullshit.
February sees releases from Jay Mascis, Chelsea Wolfe, Idols, Rod Stewart. In March,
Blackberry Smoke, nice.
Yeah, Blackberry Smoke, yes. In March, you can look forward to albums from Judas Priest and the Jesus Mary Chain. Yes. And later in the year, toward records from Korn, Ludacris, and Chance the Rapper.
Nice. Yeah, I there's some rumored other things, but like Anthrax and some others that I'm hoping will release records. But you just never know these days. They spring up on you now. All of a sudden, there's a new record that you don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily know it's coming anymore. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it should be exciting.
Wonder if we'll finally get that Cure record.
Yeah.
Is there one coming out?
It's been coming out like every year.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully they get a release date. All right, that's a couple things to look forward to for next year. What have you guys been listening to this year? What are you looking forward to next year? Sound off on the Album Nerds Discord, albumnerds.com/Discord.
I'm your density. I mean, your destiny.
All right, boys and girls, it's that time again. Gather around as we pull back the veil and take a peek at what destiny has in store for our eardrums.
As album nerds, you love music and the songs lovingly crafted for albums by your favorite artists. They love music too. Sometimes, they show that love by covering songs or entire albums of some of their favorite artists. Next week, you will be exploring albums where an artist or band covers others. Enjoy!
So cover albums. So we'll be looking for a single artist or band with an album full of covers, whether it's by the same artist or from various people's catalogs. That should be interesting.
So coolest album covers.
Wrong, 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 wrong.
Well, if it's both, that's even better. So if the album cover is particularly cool and the song covers on the album, then that's a match made in heaven.
Don't forget, you can suggest topics for the Wheel of Musical Destiny on our website, albumnerds.com, as well as vote for any ongoing Album Nerds Hall of Fame nominations.
All right, what's your favorite cover album? What's your favorite album from 2023? What else are you listening to? Let us know. Join fellow album nerds on Discord at albumnerds.com/Discord. You can email us at podcast@albumnerds.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Album Nerds. Please subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite podcast app. And if you'd like to support the show, you can do so via PayPal at albumnerds.com/support.
Thank you for joining us once again on the Album Nerds podcast. We'll catch you next time with those cover albums.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Happy New Year.
Should old acquaintance be forgot and never...
What the hell does that song mean?
What does this song mean? My whole life, I don't know what this song means. I mean, should old acquaintance be forgot? Does that mean that we should forget old acquaintances? It doesn't mean that if we happen to forget them, we should remember them, which is not possible because we already forgot them.
And a Happy New Year, you filthy animal.